Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, David Brains.
I'm James Norman.
And we've got for you a continuation of our larger tank battle.
Yes.
Iron Warriors, Iron Hands. If you remember in the last game that the Iron Warriors were successful in their 3,500 point tank battle.
Just barely.
Just barely.
Yeah, it was a close one.
It was.
Yeah, I'd call it a stalemate, personally, yeah.
I won't ruin the result for you, but if you haven't seen that game, go back and watch the game. It's a big tank battle between James and I on a massive 8x6 forward in a city. And now we've gone super small into Zone Mortalis.
Yeah, that's it. The Iron Hands under Autekmore are changing their tactics. They think maybe a precision strike on the Iron Warriors base is the way to drive them from this world. Yeah,
we're going to try and redeem ourselves from the last game. So what we've got for you, we've got an invasion mission from the Zone Mortalis missions. And it's 1650, so quite a small game compared to the one we played last. James, I think this mission is quite tricky, isn't it?
It is, yeah. You've got to get all the way across the board because the deployment zones, as you said, are only 6 inches, so you've got to keep mobile and move forwards. We do have some stratagems that could help out with that, which should be very interesting. So I don't use Zone Mortalis stratagems very often, so I'm looking forward to trying them out. But yeah, we've got to get all the way across the board.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky one. And James and I have both taken stratagems that allow advanced movement into the board. So I've gone with interdiction assault and I'm trying to read my notes off the front here. Flanking counter assault, which will be quite interesting. And James, you've gone for tunnel access.
Yeah, the hilariously risky seeming tunnel access and just some breacher charges dotted about on my tactical sergeants just to give them a bit of punch in assault. But it will be going to be interesting coming out of them tunnels. Hopefully it will go according to plan.
Yeah, I must admit I have opted for something a little bit more reliable. The flanking counter assault just gives one unit the ability to come on the left or right hand flank via reserves. And then the interdiction assault is essentially like a drop pod, really. It's like you've bored up through the bottom of the facility, and then one unit per turn can make an access from that hole there. But as well, normal rules for Zone Mortalis stipulate that you divide your force into two. Half deploys on the table, and then the half comes on reserve. So we really needed those extra stratagems to get further up the board.
Yeah, exactly. That's it, because we're both infantry heavy. So yeah, we need to keep moving because got to cover 36 inches.
Yeah.
So yeah, it should be interesting.
There's going to be a lot of running required. You know, Iron Hands with the shields, they get -1 to their run moves, and you've got a couple of cataphracti or one cataphracti Terminator unit.
Yeah, they can't run at all, so I guess the tactical guys are going to have to leg it. We'll see.
Yeah, so we will see. I've taken 2 dreadnoughts, which you might think is probably a bit powerful, but then James has got a massive squad. Are they las cannons or cannons?
They are Iron Havocs with las cannon, and also got the old reliable Tyrant Siege Terminators. So yeah, Hammer of Olympia again today to give the 2 heavy support choices. So yeah, hopefully they'll do some damage.
Holy cow, I do not want to be downrange of those weapons. They are absolutely devastating. To kind of mitigate that though, I have taken Blessed Auto Simulacra on the Dreadnoughts, which is the Iron Hands rule that they get for taking Iron Hands company. But I don't know, I need to roll a lot of, I think it's 5s or 6s for Blessed Auto Simulacra. Is it 6s?
I think it's 6s, yeah. So
that's not going to go very well, is it? I think it's going to be a fun game. I really love Zone Mortalis. For those of you that know me, I do love Zone Mortalis, so I'm really looking forward to playing this game. It's nice to see the Iron Hands outside of Challenge the Channel.
Yes, yep, that's it.
And we're going to see if we can divide and conquer, but I think it's going to be a really great game. James, should we have a look at the lists?
Let's do it.
We'll see you at turn 1.
1,643 points of Iron Warriors using the Zone Mortalis Combatant Force Organisation chart. They are using the Hammer of Olympia Rite of War, and they are led by a Warsmith whose warlord trait is Shatter Defences. Leading the Iron Warriors, we have a Legion Praetor. He's upgraded to a Warsmith, giving him Stubborn and the Shatter Defences Warlord trait. He's equipped with Cataphracti Terminator armour, a Mastercrafted Paragon Blade, a Volkite Charger and digital lasers. And the Iron Warriors also have a second HQ choice, which is a Legion Centurion, upgraded to a Chaplain Consul. He has his Power Maul, a Plasma Pistol, a Bolter, Melter Bombs and a Refractor Field. The two compulsory troops choices for the Iron Warriors are both Legion tactical squads, both 10 strong. Both of the sergeants have melter bombs, one has a combi plasma, and both of these sergeants, thanks to the Breacher Charges stratagem, have also been equipped with a Breacher Charge. The Iron Warriors have a single elite choice, which is a Legion Terminator squad. 2 of these Cataphracti have chain fists, 4 have power fists, 1 has a power sword, 2 have combi melters, and 1 has a heavy flamer, and the sergeant also has a power fist. The first heavy support choice for the Iron Warriors is a 5-strong squad of Tyrant Siege Terminators. 3 of them have chain fists, 1 has a power fist, the Siege Master has a power fist and an Omniscope, and of course they all have their Cyclone missile launchers and combi bolters. The second and final heavy support choice is a 9-strong squad of Iron Havocs. They all have las cannon.
1,645 points of Iron Hands, led by Autek Moore. The army is running the Company of Bitter Iron Rite of War. They are also running the Attacker Zone Mortalis Force Organisational Chart. The 4 strategy points were spent on flanking counter-assault and interdiction assault. Leading the assault on the Iron Warriors facility is Iron Father Autek Moore. He's equipped in Cataphracti pattern Terminator armour, a servo arm, Cortex controller, Paragon Blade, and a Volkite Charger. His warlord trait is Murderous Arsenal. The 2 elite slots are filled by 2 Contemptor Dreadnoughts, both equipped with Carey's pattern assault cannons, chain fists, extra armour, and blessed auto simulacra. They both have a melter gun in their chain fist. Thanks to the Bitter Iron, the force is running 3 identically armed squads of 15-man Immortals. They are all equipped with Volkite Chargers. There are 3 melter guns in the squad. The veteran sergeant has been upgraded to carry a melter bomb and a breaching charge. The Iron Hands and Iron Warriors have deployed. James, we've split our forces into half. We've deployed half, and the other half is off the board, ready to come in via reserves and our tunnels or interdiction assault, whatever it may be. There's not really a lot on the board for such a huge battlefield.
No, that's it. I thought I'd keep my scoring units in reserve. The objective is to get into your opponent's deployment zone with scoring units.
Yes.
So I've got the tunnels, high risk, but we'll see. So I've just put my heavy support units down, see if they can get some lines of fire. It's tricky, but maybe.
Yeah, the Iron Hands have deployed quite thinly along the backfield. We've got the 2 Contemptors in the motor pool area or the hangar area, and then just a squad of 15 Immortals on the other side. It's 3 points if you've got a scoring unit in the enemy's deployment zone, 1 point for killing a unit,
Yep.
and then secondaries are Slay the Warlord and First Blood. So it's going to I think it's going to be a desperate struggle to just wipe units out and try and move as fast as possible. You know, we're both hindered because James doesn't really want to move his heavy weapons team because they'll snap shoot. Can't run the Terminators because they're in Cataphracti. The Immortals get -1 to their run move because of the breaching shield.
And leadership test to run because they're Iron Hands.
And leadership test to run, yeah. And we know how well they went in my last game.
Yeah.
I could not run for hell on another. So we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be a really interesting game. It's going to be a lot of movement and not a lot of shooting. So it might be quite a swift game. But I think once the units come via their reserve, however they're going to come in, it's going to be very bloody very quickly. I did win the roll off to see who deploy first, go first. I made the Iron Warriors go first because I want the last turn. I don't know if that's worked or not. I'm not sure.
Oh, no idea. No idea. We'll see.
We'll find out. James, good luck to you.
Yep, good luck, mate.
And Iron Warriors turn 1.
Iron Warriors movement phase turn 1 and a very brief phase. These siege tyrants don't know which way the Contemptors are going to come between all of the Iron Warriors vehicles, so they've just moved up towards the Typhon, and then they can move either way depending on where the Iron Hands Contemptors move to. Meanwhile, the Iron Havocs have lugged their las cannon along this corridor. They are going to try to open up some lines of sight by taking out the doors with some snapshots. end of Iron Warriors shooting phase turn 1, and the 5 Iron Havocs that could see the door all managed to miss with their snapshots. That is also the end of a very quick Iron Warriors turn 1.
Iron Hands movement and shooting phase turn 1. The Iron Hands have played the interdiction assault stratagem. Essentially, it's to represent the Iron Hands have breached the facility by some means, either by a tunnel boring machine or accessing some underground tunnels. And the blast marker which it creates has popped up here just in front of those las cannon team. It did scatter, but it more or less behaves like a drop pod, and it pretty much stayed in position. The Iron Hands reserves will now be able to use that as an access point. That's the perfect position to get the Iron Hands further abroad into the Iron Warriors deployment zone. The 15-man Immortals moved forward 6 inches and then ran a further 4 after passing their leadership test to allow them to run, and they ran up to the door. So they're making a big move as much as they can. The Contemptor here in the motor pool, his move through cover was very terrible and only got a 2. So he took a side step towards the side of the tractor there, but then his ran move took him 6 inches to the side of that Spartan. And then the other Contemptor on the right hand flank here, he moved forward 6, but only managed a run move of 1 in the end. So that was a real shame. But he's making an effort to get into the Iron Warriors deployment zone and maybe draw a bead of fire on opposing units later on in the game.
Iron Warriors movement phase turn 2, and their reserve roles heralded the arrival of their 2 tactical squads, but the Terminators, Chaplain and Praetor, have remained in reserve, which is just as well, since the sneaky Iron Hands have covered up 2 of the Iron Warriors access tunnels, meaning both of the tactical squads had to come out of this one in the middle of the motor pool, which was quite hair-raising. Fortunately, the first squad scattered back, and that allowed the second squad room. And luckily they rolled a hit. They are now here, and they have the support of the Tyrant Siege Terminators, who have come marching round the side of the Typhon. They're hoping to give some fire with their Cyclone missile launchers against the Iron Hands Contemptor that they can see. Meanwhile, down the other end of the installation, 5 of the Iron Havocs remain stationary as their 4 brothers lugged their las cannons past. They now all have line of sight on a target. It's a shame it's only a door, but at least they're covering the breach created by the Iron Hands. Iron Warriors shooting phase turn 2, and with all of their las cannons brought to bear, the Iron Havocs easily annihilated the door that was their target. Unfortunately, the Tyrant Siege Terminators did not fare as well. The 2 Terminators that could see the Iron Hands Contemptor managed 2 hits with their crack missiles, but both bounced harmlessly off. But good news at the end of the phase, as both of the newly arrived Iron Warriors tactical squads managed to roll 6s for their run moves. One squad is moving between the Spartan and the Cerberus, the other is pulling back, seeking the support of the Siege Tyrants. And that brings Iron Warriors turn 2 to a close. We're still not sure how this battle is going to develop.
Iron Hands movement phase turn 2. And thanks to the flanking counter-assault, a 15-man Immortal squad has come on the Iron Warriors deployment zone. Now, due to the way the board was built, I was only able to move 2 inches onto this board here and open the door. So the Iron Hands have managed to get 3 melty guns and 1 Volkite charger into the back of those Iron Warriors Havocs. Autek Moore and his 15-man Immortal squad, they did not arrive, so that was a bit of a shame. The other 15-man Immortals have moved forward, they've come through the door, and they are staring down the barrel of those las cannons on the Iron Warriors. In the hangar, the Contemptor here has moved forward to either be in a position to shoot and charge the Iron Warriors Tactical Marines to his left, or they might in fact shoot forward either into the Havocs or the tactical units. Not too sure at the moment, but just giving them options. And then the other Contemptor has lined up some shots onto the 10-man tact squad between the Cerberus and the Spartan. So this time we're going to get some shots off. Iron Hands shooting phase turn 2 started with the Immortal squad firing 3 of their melter guns through the doorway into the back of the Havocs. 3 shots, 2 hits, and killed 2 of the las cannon toting Marines. One of the Volkite chargers then fired in, but rolled a double 1, so no hits from him. This unit here that's advancing on the las cannon teams from the Iron Warriors, they passed the leadership test, which was great. They rolled a 3 on their run move, but then -1 because of the breaching shields, so they only moved 2 inches. But they are closing the gap nonetheless. The Iron Hands Contemptor fired his Carey's Pattern Assault Cannon into the 10-man tactical squad on the Iron Warriors between the Spartan and the Cerberus. All 6 shots hits. There was 4 rending hits, and thanks to the Cold and Avoid, they rendered on a 5 and a 6, so that killed 4 Marines, and then 2 armor saves, which went really, really well. The melter gun is out of range. The other Iron Hands Contemptor has decided not to fire any of its weapons. It would be really nice to get a charge off against that Iron Warriors unit, because that will protect him from those Havocs, which have got their Havoc launchers that will fire down that corridor covering that position. So we are just going to try for a charge and see what happens. Iron Hands turned to assault phase. The Contemptor made his long charge with a 7-inch roll of the dice, only requiring 5. Hammer of Wrath went in at initiative 10 and killed an Iron Warrior. Well, that was an interesting combat. The Contemptor barreled in with 4 attacks, but I rolled 2 2s and 2 1s for its to hit roll, which was absolutely appalling. So needless to say, no Iron Warriors died at initiative 4. But then the Sergeant stepped in with his Melter Bomb, scored a hit and a penetrate, put a whole point on the Contemptor, and stunned the Iron Hands Contemptor. Amazing job from that Iron Warriors Sergeant. That is the end of the Iron Hands turn. You know, I had expected to wipe that squad out, but it's going really well for the Iron Warriors. Let's see what they've got next.
Iron Warriors movement phase turn 3, and the Warsmith, the Chaplain and the Terminators have finally arrived through this tunnel recently vacated by the Iron Hands Immortals. They have decided to try and blunt the Iron Hands assault on this flank, since the Iron Havocs find themselves very heavily outnumbered, especially with that breaching point waiting for Ortek Moore and his squad of Immortals to emerge as well. We don't want the Iron Hands to be able to rack up 9 easy points on this flank. Meanwhile, over in the hangar bay, this tactical squad is running between the Cerberus and the Typhon. They are moving away to try and use their huge vehicles to block line of sight from the other Iron Hands Contemptor. The other tactical squad is, of course, still locked in combat with one, but hoping for another lucky result like it had in the previous assault phase. Meanwhile, the Tyrant Siege Terminators, they are advancing. They are still trying to find targets with their Cyclone missile launchers. Iron Warriors shooting phase turn 3, and the newly arrived Cataphractii Terminators open fire on this squad of Immortals. First, they washed their heavy flamer over the Iron Hands, but thanks to their hardened armour, none of them fell. Then a hail of combi bolter fire erupted. Once again, the toughness of the Iron Hands, particularly their Inviolate armour rule, meant that none fell. The Chaplain managed to shoot one down with a blast from his plasma pistol, and the Praetor took out another with his Volkite charger, but disappointing from the Iron Warriors Terminators. Seeing the seeming lack of effect that the fire of the Cataphractii had on the Iron Hands Immortals, the Iron Havocs decided to show their brothers how to do it. Out of 7 shots, they got 6 hits, 5 wounds, and that blasted 4 Iron Hands Immortals to pieces, and that was too much for the Iron Hands. They failed their morale check, and they are running directly away from the Iron Warriors down this corridor, although that, at first glance, does not seem to be too bad a result for the Iron Hands. Over in the hangar, with the Tyrant Siege Terminators unable to run and the other tactical squad still locked in assault with the Iron Hands Contemptor, the only action was performed by the other tactical squad, which managed a 5-inch run. They are trying to move forwards using their huge super heavy vehicles for cover. Iron Warriors assault phase turn 3, and at initiative 4, with a mighty sweep of his chain fist, the Iron Hands Contemptor sliced one Iron Warrior to pieces, but the Iron Warrior Sergeant is stepping forwards with his Melter Bomb. And the Iron Warriors turn 3 has ended with a bang, quite literally. This Sergeant clearly wants a promotion. He clamped another Melter Bomb onto the Iron Hands Contemptor and blew it to pieces with the roll of a 6. That is a very good result for the Iron Warriors. They now have a chance to actually move into the Iron Hands deployment zone on this flank.
Iron Hands movement phase, turn 3. Autek Moore and his Immortal squad have emerged from the underground tunnels below the Iron Warriors complex, and they have emerged right in front of those Iron Warriors Havocs. The unit of Immortals behind them has just shuffled around to bring a few more weapons to bear. Our plan is to utterly annihilate that unit, so fingers crossed there. The squad of Immortals that ran at the end of their last turn have rallied, which is really good news. That fallback move wasn't actually that bad, as it does give them a different route to the enemy deployment zone. So has helped us out a little bit, but would have preferred not to have had them run. And then, this combat between that tactical squad and the Contemptor. Unbelievable that the Contemptor was lost to a single melter bomb, and out of 7 attacks wasn't able to wipe that squad out. But anyway, that's the way it goes. The brother Contemptor of the Iron Hands has closed the distance between that tactical squad and will hopefully gun them down with his Carey's Pattern Assault squad. Crucially, we are out of line of sight of those Iron Havocs. Iron Hands shooting phase, turn 3. The Contemptor opened up with his Carey's Pattern Assault cannon, got 4 hits and 3 kills, and left 1 Iron Warrior standing. Would have liked to have wiped that squad out. I have no doubt that in the Iron Warrior's turn, he's going to move and run as fast as he can behind the Spartan, and it'll be a game of cat and mouse then with the Contemptor and the Iron Warrior's tactical squads. Continuing on the shooting phase, the Immortal squad behind the Havocs opened up with their 3 melter guns and 1 Volkite charger, but only managed to drop 1 of the Iron Warriors. Then Autek Moore and his squad of Immortals with Volkite chargers and melter guns opened up, but only killed 4 models, which was just unreal, leaving 2 of the Iron Warriors left. It looks like the squad of Immortals will have to charge the Iron Warrior Havocs this turn. This Immortal squad passed the leadership test and ran 4 inches. They do not want to get anywhere near those Terminators with the Praetor. Iron Hands assault phase, turn 3. The Immortals declared a charge against the Iron Warriors heavy weapons team. Now, they can't reactionary fire because they have heavy weapons, but they can still snap shoot, which they did. 1 hit was scored, but failed to wound on a 2, which was quite lucky. The Immortals then barreled in a 5-inch charge, only bringing 4 models to in range of that combat. At Initiative 4, the Iron Havocs struck the Iron Hands. With their 2 attacks, got 2 hits and 2 wounds, but the armour held strong on the Iron Hands. They then struck back with 8 attacks, and thanks to Hatred, got 6 hits, 4 wounds, and only killed 1 Iron Havoc. James then passed his leadership test, and the combat is tied up for the next turn.
Iron Warriors movement phase, turn 4, and the Siege Tyrants continue to advance. They are trying to track down the Iron Hands Contemptor because they need to protect the Iron Warriors Tactical Marines. The lone survivor of the first squad has run behind the Spartan. He's trying to get into the Iron Hands deployment zone. He's followed by the full strength squad of 10. That is very valuable. Both of those are scoring units. That would be worth 3 points each if they can get to their target. And that is why the Cataphractii Terminators have advanced a little, but they have ultimately stayed in the Iron Hands deployment zone. They are very slow, and it's quite unlikely that they will catch the Iron Hands Immortals who are advancing into the Iron Warriors deployment zone. It looks like the Iron Warriors are going to have to accept that they will lose 9 points, and that is what's making this battle very interesting currently. The Iron Warriors have a chance to get their own 9 points by moving 3 scoring units into the Iron Hands deployment zone. The Iron Warriors managed to get first blood because they destroyed the Contemptor Dreadnought next to the Cerberus, and we're very even in terms of kill points, so this is going to be a very, very tight game that is going to go down to the wire in terms of scoring units and victory points. Iron Warriors shooting phase, turn 4, and the Siege Tyrants have been blocked by the corner of their own fell blade. They can't quite get a line of sight on the Iron Hands Contemptor, which is disappointing. Meanwhile, the Tactical Marines continue to run. The lone Marine ran 3 inches, and the full squad following him ran another 5. The Cataphracti cannot run, so they have held position, making that a very short phase. We have one ongoing assault, which is the lone Iron Havoc desperately trying to hold this flank. Let's see if he can do it. We doubt it. Iron Warriors assault phase turn 4, and this Iron Havoc continues to defy expectations. Although he hasn't managed to take out any Immortals yet, he is weathering their attacks very well. Neither side caused any wounds, and this combat remains ongoing. Although with Ortec Moore lurking up the corridor, maybe his life is about to be cut short.
Iron Hands, movement phase turn 4. The Iron Hands had a really tough decision to make this turn. That Contemptor is a scoring unit because it's drawn from the elite slot. He could have moved 6 inches and ran towards the Iron Warriors deployment zone, but those Terminators are placed in such a perfect position that they could have taken a load of shots against it. So it was more than likely going to die, and I wouldn't have been able to escape the firepower for much longer. So I've decided to commit it. I, however, though, haven't decided whether to go against the Siege Tyrants or to go against the Tactical Squad. It makes sense to go against the Tactical Squad because it will deny the Iron Warriors 3 points. So it might try for some carries shots and then maybe a charge or just a charge. But we're relying on that fleet move, fleet reroll, and it's about a 9-inch charge. So really tough decision there to make. But we'll make that decision in a minute. The Immortals on this side are making a concerted effort to move to within 6 inches of the Iron Warriors deployment zone. I had considered maybe moving Ortec Moore's squad back a little bit just to get some shots down on those Iron Warriors. But because they don't take leadership tests from shooting, being an Iron Warrior, it was only been an opportunistic shot to try and make them run. But in the end, I decided it was just a waste of time. We're not going to wipe the squad and we're not going to make them run. So what's the point engaging them? They're going to score 3 points. We can't deny them scoring 3 points. So that's the end of that. So all of the squads are going to make a push. Unbelievably, that Iron Havoc has staunchly held those Immortals back. So our plan is to take him out this turn. And then the rest of the Iron Hands Immortals will make a push for that 6-inch deployment zone in the Iron Warriors. I know that was a long monologue, but it's a really tense and tricky game. Iron Hands, shooting phase turn 4. There is no shooting in this turn 4. The Immortal squad passed their leadership test, rolled a 3 on their run move, but -1 because of void hardened armor, and managed a 2-inch run. So that was really exciting. The Immortal squad with Ortec Moore are going to charge that Iron Havoc. We need to finish it off, and then it will get a consolidate for both units. So that's really good news, and that will help just push them into the enemy's deployment zone. And then finally, the decision has been made. The Contemptor is going to charge the 10-man tactical unit there. It's a 9-inch charge. I have got fleet, but it is an absolutely crucial charge. So we can do this live on camera. Let's have a little look. What have we got? Oh, that's a 6 and a 2.
Roll the 2.
So we're going to re-roll the 2. Oh, I can't see it. It's another 2. That is a failed charge. And now the Contemptor is out in the open with the Terminators. More than likely will shoot and charge. That is very, very dangerous position to be in. Iron Hands, Salt Phase turn 4. The Iron Warrior had a really good turn of combat. It hit and wounded, but failed to kill an Iron Hand. However, it was too much with being in combat with the 2 units, and it did die. I would have liked the Consolidate to have been a little bit better. The squad closest to the screen here only managed a 2-inch Consolidate, and Ortec Moore squad managed a 1-inch Consolidate. I mean, that is quite appalling, really. They will then seek to move in their subsequent moving phase to get into the the Iron Warriors deployment. It's getting very complicated with the Iron Hands and Iron Warriors. I'm super disappointed about that Contemptor. I pray that his automatic shielding will do me proud this turn.
Iron Warriors, movement phase, turn 5, and with very little to do, the Cataphracti and the Praetor and the Chaplain have just contented themselves with stomping down this corridor, seeing if they can find any Iron Hands. It doesn't look like they're going to. Meanwhile, the Iron Warriors tactical squads are closing in on their objective. They're both going to need run moves, but it looks like they're going to get there, assuming they can stay alive, which is going to rely on the Siege Tyrants finally taking out this Contemptor. They're happy that they finally have a target. Iron Warriors shooting phase turn 5, and the Tyrant Siege Terminators joyously unleashed their missiles at last at a valuable target. They managed to get 8 hits, which turned into 2 glances and a penetrating hit. The 2 glances went through, but the penetrating hit was saved by the shielding, leaving the Iron Hands Contemptor on 1 hull point, and meaning that the Tyrants are going to have to charge. Meanwhile, the Iron Warriors Tactical Marines, they have run forwards. They are now in a scoring position and hopefully will stay there for the remainder of this battle. Iron Warriors Assault Phase turn 5, and the Tyrant Siege Terminators made their charge into the Contemptor, but he passed his reaction fire check and with a devastating volley from his Kerry's assault cannon managed to cut down 2 of them, although fortunately the wound that was inflicted by his melter gun was saved by the Cataphractii Terminator armour. That means this is now looking like the combat could go either way between these Tyrants and the Contemptor. At initiative step 4, the Iron Hands Contemptor swung with his Chain Fist. He managed 2 hits, but unfortunately only 1 wound, and that was saved. And now he has to face the fury of the Iron Warriors' Chain Fists. The Iron Warriors Siege Tyrants went in with their Chain Fists with 9 attacks, but their luck was appalling. They have managed 1 hit. It's strength 8 with Armour Bane. It is a Chain Fist. Let's see if they can take out this troublesome Contemptor. It's a penetrating hit. We just need 1 6-up save. Oh, he is soldiering on. That is an amazing result from the Iron Hands Contemptor. Disappointment for the Siege Tyrants, and that brings Iron Warriors turn 5, potentially their last turn, to a close.
Iron Hands movement phase turn 5, and my heart is racing from that last turn. It was unbelievable. You know, James only getting 1 hit out of 9 attacks was unbelievable, and then to roll a 6 when I needed it the most, it came up. So really, really pleased with that combat. Anyway, at the beginning of turn 5, potentially the last turn of the game, the entire 3 squads of Immortals moved into the Iron Warriors deployment zone. This squad at the back, I know they haven't gone far, they've just kind of shuffled around in the last couple of inches of the board, but they've moved back full 6 inches to allow room for Autek Mor and his Immortals. They have broken through that perimeter, and they are now in the Iron Warriors deployment zone. This squad here will just need a little run move of 1 inch just to make it over that threshold, and they will also capture the Iron Warriors deployment zone, scoring the Iron Hands 9 victory points. It will all now come down to the combat between the Contemptor and the Terminators. Iron Hands, turn 5, shooting. Well, with a leadership check passed and a roll of 2 for the run move for this squad, -1 for their Void Hardened armour, the squad made it over the threshold into the Iron Warriors deployment zone. That's exactly what we needed. It would have been nice to have made it a little bit more comfortably with perhaps a roll of a 3 or 4, but nonetheless, they have made it. And now we will go on to Iron Hands turn 5 assault. Iron Hands turn 5 assault phase, combat between the Contemptor and the Siege Tyrant Terminators. At initiative 4, the Contemptor struck with 3 attacks, got 3 hits and 2 wounds, but James made 1 of his invulnerable saves, and only one of the Terminators died. They will now attack back with their Chain Fists.
At initiative 1, the Tyrant Siege Terminators are striking back. They've got 4 attacks with their Chain Fists. They need 4s to hit, and they've got 2 hits. So, strength 8 Armour Bane, we're looking for 5s to glance, 6s to pen, that's 1 pen, and another pen. 2 pens to save, needing 6s. Oh, and once again the Iron Hands Contemptor has soldiered on. This adamantic shielding is unbelievable.
Dice are available to purchase if you so require.
Having lost the combat, the Siege Tyrants need a leadership check. They lost by 1, leadership 9 goes down to 8. Do they stay? No, they do not. They could be swept. And they are destroyed. And having finished trampling all over the Siege Tyrant Terminators, this Contemptor has consolidated 3 inches. This is very bad news for the Iron Warriors, as he now has plenty of tactical marines to target with his Kerry's assault cannon if the game goes for another turn, which of course it will, because the Iron Warriors have the bitter end as one of their Legion rules. That Contemptor has been an absolute star. Iron Warriors turn 5, and it looks like the 4th Legion may have had a slight reprieve from their own stubborn Legion rules, as the lone tactical marine has managed to find a position behind this crane where it looks like he will not be able to be targeted by the Iron Hands Contemptor, who would surely be his target. That would be easy to hose him down and save the Iron Warriors from scoring another 3 points. But the Contemptor does have a potential option as the other tactical squad. They have moved past their lone brother, but there is a possibility with a good roll that Contemptor may be able to charge in and destroy them. Meanwhile, the Terminators have just held position. They're in a scoring position, and they may as well just claim 3 points and hope that the Contemptor cannot do the business for the Iron Hands.
Iron Hands, turn 6, the final turn of the game. Now, the bitter end rule states that the opposing player can push for a 6th and final turn and not have to go through the random game length rolling. So that's what the Iron Hands did. They pushed the Iron Warriors to have a 6th and final turn, and it is literally going to come down to a dice roll. We know that the 3 Immortal squads and Autic Maw are in the Iron Warriors deployment zone, scoring 9 points. What we need to do now is this Contemptor, this charmed Contemptor, has moved 6 inches. It cannot see this lone marine. Curses that we could not kill it outright in the previous shooting phases. But nevertheless, we're here. We have to wipe out this Iron Hand squad. The Contemptor has moved 6 inches, and now it is an 8-inch charge into that unit with Fleet. I need a big roll, so wish the Iron Hands luck. Ooh, okay, so that's a 5. We do have Fleet. We can re-roll. All comes down to this. Oh, there it is. That is a 5-inch charge. It does not connect into that unit here. There was no point shooting them because they are Iron Warriors. They wouldn't have fled. A charge was the only option. That now is the end of an extremely tense game. We're now going to tot up victory points. James, I'm speechless.
Me too.
I don't know quite what to say. There was a point that we got to where we discussed, if this happens, that happens, this happens. It worked out so many different scenarios. What if that goes up? What if that goes? What if that goes? But, in the end, we played to the mission, didn't we?
We did, yeah. And that turned out to be vital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the only varying degree in the whole thing, because our tactical genius was pretty sound, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But it was just the dice in the end that just made for such a thrilling game.
Absolutely, yeah. It really was nail-biting. Those last 2 turns, yeah. Unbelievable.
And we included some dice rolls. The channel's been criticised recently for not doing dice rolls, and the fact of the matter is, it just takes so long to do every dice roll. I think there is a really great case to do very key dice rolls.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely, we did this in this one,
yeah,
just to try and make sure we've got them in the end. But I tell you what, when we needed the dice, we got them.
Absolutely, yeah, couldn't believe it.
Oh God, I'm quite emotional from that game, to be honest with you. My heart hasn't stopped pounding. Anyway, let's get on to the scores. It is an absolutely incredible result. We'll start with the Iron Warriors first. You got first blood.
Yes, luckily.
That melter bomb taking out the Contemptor on the from the tactical sergeant. By rights, that Contemptor should have just waded through that squad.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable rolling from James there. You got 3 victory points for having 3 scoring units in the end of the Iron Hands deployment zone in the end.
3 each.
3 each, sorry. So it took you to 9. And then you destroyed 1 complete unit, which was the Contemptor, which took your total to 11. Very respectable. The Iron Hands, on the other hand, scored 9 points for having 3 scoring units in the end. 2 victory points for killing 2 units, and they were the Havocs and the Tyrants, Terminators. Which also took the Iron Hands to 11 as well. So it was a draw in the end. It was.
That's it. These 2 armies, they seem to really struggle to get one over on each other. It's amazing, really, every time the Iron Hands and the Iron Warriors meet. So It was an incredible game, and it goes to show how important playing to the the victory point objectives is really. I mean, it was a low casualty game.
It was.
I only destroyed one unit, in fact. But yeah, fairly happy with the result. Yeah.
It was an unbelievable result. There's a couple of really key things for me that I'd love to talk about. The first one is, on the face of it, it looks quite a boring game because all essentially James and I did was just exchange deployment zones. But let me tell you, it was no mean feat of getting at least 2 immortal squads, one from the far end, one from the middle of the board, into the deployment zone. You know, that ability with having the void hardened armor, not the breaching shield, for the -1 to the run move, and rolling really low on their run moves, that was pretty hard to get over there. So we made it in the end.
That's it. It's a shame I didn't have just one extra unit over that side of the battlefield that could have just maybe held them up. But I think the Havocs did quite well, given they were strung out on their own.
I think they did really well. And that lone survivor lasted a couple of turns.
He did, yeah.
Very staunchly defending his deployment zone. But also as well, you know, if you look at the other side, the exchange between the tactical units and the Contemptors, and the cat and mouse game played between the Contemptor, the Terminators and the tactical squads, they were just kind of milling around each other. I think it would made for a fantastic game.
Absolutely, yeah. Just trying to get some squads past those 2 Contemptors that were stood like sentinels in the middle of the hangar bay. Yeah, it was a lot of hard thinking, a lot of edgy run moves, but yeah, they did it in the end. I thought the Tyrants had finally got one up on the Contemptor at the end, but he stood firm, and I'm not surprised you brought him back.
Oh man, yeah, exactly right. He did a sterling job. You know, when I needed those invulnerable saves, I got them on 6s and a couple of 5s in there as well. So amazing work. You know, and again, James, you brought back your tactical unit. They did brilliant.
Yeah, again, it just goes to show that you need scoring units. They couldn't really do much to the Immortal squads. They were completely outclassed, but they ended up really saving the day for the Iron Warriors just by moving cleverly and scoring. So yeah, great job from them. And of course, their brother squad did manage to take out a Contemptor with a melter bomb. Always enjoyable.
It's brilliant. And I think the other thing which worked really, really well is we used stratagems in this game, and we both took 2 different ones specifically just to kind of demonstrate them. And I definitely think the ones that I took were perhaps a little bit more reliable.
Yeah, although I did get lucky. I thought it was going to be a disaster of deep strike mishaps, but yeah, just the scatter dice was kind, and I think that allowed it to be a closer game as well, because that stratagem, that's very dangerous to use in Zone Mortalis, isn't it? Deep striking. Yeah, your ones were really effective.
Yeah, I think they were just a bit more predictable. I think there was no random element to it. And that one, I think it was the Interdiction Assault, where kind of a hole came out of the ground, almost represented like a termite coming through or some other sneaky means of access. It's like a drop pod, as I mentioned before. If it hits something, it just stays where it is, and it's almost a guarantee to get a unit on. And I think they were used to good effect. But so really interested to see those. We've seen a couple of stratagems used, particularly the Fire Wasp, the barricades and the booby traps in the battle for Sector 139 with the 4 guys from Newcastle. So it was good to see those stratagems being used along with the ones that we've used today as well. So starting to introduce those a little bit more, as in the past we haven't done them because they can be a little bit onerous to kind of enact on the day. And if you've got 2 guys that have never filmed on the channel, there's a lot to do. So really good for us to do those as well. But other than that, I had a fantastic game. I guess we need to do another Iron Warriors Iron Hands game.
Absolutely, yeah. We need to somehow get these guys to settle their differences with a decisive result. Oh, God. So yeah, let's see.
We'll try and
big one.
Continue the saga. Yeah, James always wants a big game. I always want Zone Mortalis, so we'll have to compromise somewhere. But I have no doubt that we'll see these armies facing off again very, very soon. James, thank you so much for the game.
Well, thank you, mate. That was one of the most exciting games I've had in a long time. It was great.
It's absolutely thrilling. James and I will see you again very, very soon.